Please share some of your learnings from couple therapy, which could strengthen couple relationship.
Okay. Well, as you know, couple therapy is challenging on all counts for all of us, the therapists as much as the patients. I think what I want to say about couple therapy is that I have found that it is incredibly important to do individual therapy with each partner. I want to avoid at all costs the situation where the couple come together and use the time to dump on each other. In other words, to give you a litany of complaints. This was, of which there are many, I have no doubt. And, not that those complaints may not be valid, but if they use a couple therapy, if they use that situation in which to have that ding-dong battle, then I think we're doing, like Who's Afraid of Virginia Woolf, of Mr. Rattigan, or Tennessee Williams, not Mr. Rattigan. So anyway, the fact is that I don't value that. And instead of doing that, I do always like to see both patients, both members of the couple, and I like to see both of them as well. Even though it's possible for the one to be with another therapist, I think if it's about couple work, excuse me, and I'm seeing them, then I want to see them both. And I will certainly, give them an opportunity then to voice all the complaints and the hurts and the bitterness, so that at least one can look at that, give that a context, and perhaps move into a different arrangement when the two people come together. And what I was going to say to you is, in couple therapy, this is where I really often do a lot of gestalt. In other words, this is where I will ask people at certain points to actually look at each other, to actually see, to talk about what they see when they see each other, what they notice about the other person, how to describe them. I'd ask them to describe their features, what color eyes they've got, what color hair do they, so that it brings back a way of actually recognizing who you're with. So often, the issues in couple therapy are that the other person represents a parent whom one has not had a very good relationship with. And it can be either mother or father. But the fact is that we don't see each other. You really don't see the person that you're talking to, or that you are having this fight with. So that's a very important, and I use quite a bit of gestalt, and I use quite a bit of movement, and I ask people to move towards each other and to connect with each other physically. I do quite a lot of that in the work that I do. What I want to say to you is this. My daughter, Nolene, does an excellent work called brain dominance profiling. And where possible, I have asked her to profile the people that I work with. And in that profile, you will recognize that if people have got very different profiles, they are going to have an extremely difficult time understanding each other. The language that they use, we talk about the 5 languages of love, etc. But the fact remains that people who are programmed to have left, who are programmed essentially left, look for detail and look for order and look for logic. And people who are right brain are likely to be more creative, more artistic, and have a they take a long view, they take the wide view, not the detailed view. And these two views very often make understanding each other extremely difficult. So when we make this, when we have this profiling, and we can show people what they have to look out for, because they may have very different understandings of each other, it definitely helps to create a bigger understanding. But this is also an important aspect to realize that, you know, there are these ways of seeing the world. My perspective of the world is geared in this direction. And so everything that you do, I'm going to interpret in that way. And of course, vice versa. And it does make it difficult for us to then understand each other, because everybody wants, in quotes, to be on the same page.
Mm-hmm.
So it's quite difficult to get that. So that's one of the things that I will pay attention to. And the other thing, of course, is to examine closely the pattern of the parental marriage, because the parental marriage is always going to have an influence on the way the couple create their own marriage.
Wow, this is a very important dimension. I think the couple has to reflect along with the therapist.
Absolutely. It's very, very, very important. And also to recognize what they felt about their parents' marriage. What was their experience of that marriage? And often it's one of division. So what are they going to do? They're going to repeat that. And so that's another element that I think is an important one to explore, to talk about for each of them, to see how they cast their partner in the role of either parent and need to repeat the same kind of patterns that they learned in their families. That was their field, that's what they've learned. Then I also take the concept of marriage as a third entity between two people and try to help them to realize that if both of them cannot provide and create nourishment for that marriage is going to disintegrate. So the marriage is something separate from you and me. It's us. And what it is that we have agreed to provide for it. So we've made certain vows which have to do with sustaining a marriage. And so that marriage has to be respected as a third entity, which requires something from each of us.
So it's a mutual responsibility.
That's right.
To nurture another entity, which is marriage, and how I'm going to do that, and how you're going to do this, and how together we are going to do this. I think that's